you, Mr Speaker. Can I thank the Chancellor for his statement? We have known that this price rise was coming for months, and today we learn that the energy price cap will increase to £1,971 in April. In October, I called on the government to provide immediate support for households, cutting VAT on their energy bills and saving £200 off bills, with £400 in extra targeted support for those who need it most, which would mean for some of the poorest families in our country almost no increase in energy bills from April. The government have not done that today. Now, we all remember when the Prime Minister said that cutting VAT was one of the benefits of Brexit. He said, and I quote, "When we vote leave, we will be able to scrap this unfair and damaging tax." Could there ever be a time where this policy is more needed than it is today? And I would have thought that the Prime Minister, with his unblemished record of integrity, would defend the commitments that he has made, but instead it's another pledge thrown onto the bonfire of broken Tory promises. And the uncomfortable truth for the Chancellor is that even after what he has announced today, families in Britain will be still paying hundreds of pounds more for their energy, including some of the poorest families, from April as a result of the breathtaking rise in energy prices just announced by Ofgem. Millions of people cutting back to pay the bills. Citizens' Advice have said that they have seen a record number of people in January struggling with fuel debts before the energy price increase. But what does the government offer? A buy now, pay later scheme that loads up costs for tomorrow. High prices as far as the eye can see. This year, next year and the year after that. Give with one hand now and take it all back later. The party opposite used to talk about the nation's credit card. Well, today, Mr Speaker, we've seen the Chancellor force British households to load up their credit cards. By lending billions of pounds to energy companies, the Chancellor is gambling that prices are going to fall. But they could go up further in October. What then? Billions more loaded onto people's bills? The best way of targeting support to those who need it most would be an increase to £400 and an extension to 9 million households of the Warm Homes discount, as Labour have proposed. Their scheme today is a pale imitation of Labour's, especially for the households and pensioners on the most modest incomes. The Chancellor instead is using council tax to target extra help. That will mean many of the poorest households will not get extra support, while some of the richest do. And it's people living in the North and the Midlands who will lose out most. The hypocrisy the day after the government's levelling up white paper is obvious.
Order. Mr Holden, I think we need to be a little calmer. I'm sure you'll want to catch my eye, and it's not the way to do so. Chancellor Rachel Reeves.
So can the Chancellor confirm how many people who are fuel poor will miss out on council tax support compared to the Warm Homes discount support that Labour have announced? Mr Speaker, the government had a choice. Only today, Shell announced that their profits had quadrupled to $20 billion. They described their results as momentous. Dividends up, profits up, and people's energy bills up too. Labour's plan would impose a one-off windfall tax on those excess profits. But this Chancellor would rather shield the oil and gas producers, while at the same time loading the cost onto working people and pensioners. Cabinet ministers have described the oil and gas producers as struggling. Struggling, Mr Speaker. Tell that to the 1 in 5 people who are already skipping meals so that they can pay their energy bills. And, Mr Speaker, this energy crisis has not happened overnight. It's a decade of dither and delay from the party opposite that has brought us to this point. A decade of failure to regulate our energy market. A decade in which they have slashed our gas storage capacity, leaving us more reliant than ever on Russia for our gas imports. A decade of failure to make the most of solar, tidal and wind energy. And a decade of stalled progress on insulating our homes to keep bills low, not just for 1 year but into the future too. It has been the Tory decade that has led to this announcement, Mr Speaker, of the biggest increase in the price of domestic energy since records began. That is what the Chancellor should acknowledge and should apologise for today. The Conservatives aren't solving the cost of living crisis because the Conservative Party are the cost of living crisis.